Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm your surprise co-host, J.R. Honeycutt. This is the Meeple Syrup Show, designers discussing design, episode 81, the pros of cons. And we're going to talk to you and also our guests who are coming up in just a moment, and also our surprise co-hosts about the pros and probably also the cons of going to game conventions. And it's going to be a great show. And we're super excited. So first I want to introduce to you the person here who you probably do actually recognize, which is your normal co-host, DJ Deep Six Sin Fong Lim. What's up, Sin?
Not much. How are you, JR? Thanks
I'm
for
good,
coming on the
man.
show and on semi-short notice. Short
Yeah.
notice being like a week or two, and then forgetting, and then being told.
I mean,
Right.
there's nothing else you could possibly expect from me than to be like, hey, are you ready for this? And me to be like, of course I am. What am I agreeing to?
It's
Question
good. It's,
mark.
it's all good. Hey, Tiff, what's up?
Hey, I made the creepy attic less creepy.
Yeah.
It was never really that creepy. So tell everybody what you had for breakfast in honor of the show.
I had pancakes. I woke up at 7:30 and I was like, I have to go be on maple syrup, and I have a photographic memory. So immediately the image of the logo came on, and then I was like, I need pancakes.
Well, I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So, JR, what have you been doing in Gameland lately, sir? Tell us about your new thing.
Man, it has been an absolutely insane month for gaming stuff. Some things in order. Number one, I have a new podcast that I started. It's called JR Plays, and it's available through iTunes, through Google Play, through Stitcher, SoundCloud, etc. And it's just me talking about what games I played for the week for like 30 minutes, talking about games from the standpoint of a community organizer, like games that we play at Nerd Night and in our local game nights. Also, games that me and Amy play together. So a little bit of the husband-wife interaction stuff that I talk about and as well as a game designer. So I design full-time for Artana, and sometimes I'll talk about games from that perspective. And it's about half an hour, and I just talk about what I played, new games, old games, kind of give a little perspective and tell some of those stories. I've got 2 episodes in so far, a new one every week, and I'm going to do it as long as I can pay for a SoundCloud account, I guess. So it's going to be fun. Yeah,
Oh,
I also
that's how you're hosting it all as SoundCloud?
yeah,
That's cool.
SoundCloud. I'll probably switch to Libsyn after talking to Jeff Engelstein. But I'm new to this, right? I was in the shower last Tuesday morning, and I was just, like when you're in the shower, you have like your best deep thoughts because it's the one time of the
I
day that you can hold your
totally
phone.
do. I
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
No, it's because like it's the one time of day that I'm not staring at my phone or staring at my Kindle or my computer screen. And I was like, you know what? I'm so intimidated by the idea of having a podcast, but I have so many amazing friends who have done it. Like literally everybody here has contributed to content before, and Tiffany has made her own videos for forever. I was like, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to go to my computer, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make a podcast, I'm going to record my first episode, and it's going to be the easiest content in the world, which is just the games that I've played for the week, and that's what I did, and it's done now, and I'm very happy with it. It's been pretty cool. So, yeah.
Cool, cool. And Tiff, are you doing anything new on the content scene? I know you're bringing stuff back.
I'm bringing stuff back for the most part. The only thing that's really new that we've been doing since we got back from Gen Con actually is live streams every Tuesday
Oh, right.
night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so 7:30 Pacific time, we Steve and I live stream a game, and there's a poll on Twitter right now, and I'll link it in a little bit. Because every week I'm too lazy to pick what I play, so I let the internet do it.
That's good. So you
Yeah.
put up your whole collection on BGG or something, and then you get votes for which game you should play?
No, it's even simpler than that. Steve and I will pick, or we'll discuss, like throughout the week, 4 different games that we want
Ah,
to play, and then I'll put those in a Twitter poll, and then people on Twitter just vote.
hey
So
man.
this week we went with a worker placement theme.
Yep.
So we have the new Agricola Family Edition, Viticulture, Caverna, and Automania. And I think Viticulture is winning right now. So I think we'll be streaming Viticulture
Fun,
tonight.
fun,
I'm
fun,
voting for viticulture right now. I am vote number 98. Viticulture is definitely winning.
fun. And do you play the whole game out? You stream the whole like hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah, we stream the whole game. Usually we pick games that are only going to be about an hour long. So well, with teaching, so I usually will teach the internet really quickly how to play the game at the beginning of the stream,
The whole
and or I will teach Steve because half the time we're playing something that he's never played. Um, and then we play a full game, and then we talk very briefly about it. Like not really a review, we just talk super briefly about it at the end, and then that's it.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so next week on this particular show at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, Meeple Syrup Time, that's what we call it. Hey, it's Meeple Syrup Time.
That's so good.
It's like peanut butter jelly time. Um, I'm going to announce the candidate or candidates. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really decided how many I'm going to take for the Game Dojo project that I'm doing, which will be one or maybe two or maybe four newer designers who are unpublished and or unsigned to kind of mentor through about 8 months worth of stuff.
You're
So
gonna mentor them yourself?
yeah, I'm gonna take them under my wing and kind of do what we do for the Game Artisans of Canada, but just they don't have to be a member of the Game Artisans of Canada. Um,
Can I
just
just say, by the way, that you did some of that for me, and it was awesome. It was just the best thing. So I'm jealous of those guys. I still want to be in that position with you.
yeah, but you're published, dude.
Yeah, I mean, barely.
Oh, you got your finger in many pies, sir. And that was not a euphemism for anything at all. Anyway,
DKG6?
so yeah, we're gonna get down to that next week. But this week we have count of two amazing guests from parts unknown. I don't know where Eric. Oh, actually, I know exactly where Eric lives. I can go to his house. And do
We'll
things.
go ahead and put that up on Google Maps. Everyone who's watching just
Right,
click on the screen.
go find Eric. No,
right.
we have actually, you know what? Cut us a promo for our guests there, JR. You're really good.
I will do it. The panda loving, his friends hugging, insult spewing, but very nice to you when you're viewing, coming straight from Toronto, Canada, from a high-rise 9,000 feet in the air. He is Eric Lang. What's up, Eric?
Eric's not here yet. I have to bring him up, man.
Oh, it's fine. Well, whatever. He'll come back. He's here.
Hey, it's
Just
Eric
imagine
Lang.
like flames
Heyo.
exploding, like metal in the background.
That's right. And who else do we got, JR?
Oh, we've got Ben from Floodgate.
Oh, this guy.
No. I got this.
Oh,
I got this.
hold on. I'm gonna turn him off so we can bring him back on.
That's right. I've got this.
Ready, go. Just do it.
Our other guest tonight, our second guest tonight, today, 11 o'clock in the morning here in Central Time, and I think it's 4 in the morning where Tiffany is from. We have a man who has not seen Top Gun, and you need to know nothing else. Ben Harkins from Floodgate Games.
I'm laughing so hard I can't hit the switch. Oh, hey, Ben, what's up?
Hello.
Hey. All right, so let's get this started. Today's show is not about wrestling or Top Gun, although those would be very good shows. Today's
Excellent
show,
top.
yeah. Today's show is actually about conventions and the pros of cons. So we all know conventions cost us a lot of money to go to. And for some of us, it's all out of pocket. For some of us, we go as reps for companies or media. Some of us, it's our job to be there. But for those of us who can't get paid to be there, and it's a big price tag to go to, say, Indiana or international to Essen, why do we go? Those are the questions we're going to ask. So we're going to start off with Ben. Ben, as a publisher, what is the most important thing about going to cons? Why do you pay the big bucks to have a booth, a minuscule booth compared to some of the other ones, at a place like Gen Con? What's the deal?
Yeah. For me, I love connecting with people, and I think our hobby is such a social hobby, and it's really important to get together with your friends in person and whatnot, and being able to sort of adopt that same angle as a publisher to me is really important. And then you really get to hear people's feedback in person about our games and how we can improve and all of that. So those opportunities are, for me, kind of what I cherish about the convention experience.
Okay, and how much does it cost roughly for booths at the various conventions? Is it like insanely expensive?
It really depends on the size of the convention. That's the typical factor is attendance. It kind of scales non-linearly, it seems.
So pyramidal scoring?
Yeah. There's who knows where those come from, but
Yeah.
It's usually proportional to the amount of attendance that they have, and typically, if you're doing sales at a convention, you can get close to breaking even, or I can at least financially, and that's pretty good for me.
Okay, cool. Tiff, you're up.
Yeah, so Eric, you are coming, or going rather, to conventions from the perspective of a publisher, usually with several titles being published or being released at the convention. What's it like for you to go to a con? Because I know whenever I see you at a convention, you're always running from like one booth to the next.
It's because I'm on
Yeah.
fire. So, I mean, I've done this a long time, and if I've actually run the gamut for reasons to go to a convention, and the reason I went when I started is completely different from now. Like when I was starting out I was always going as a designer, always. But when I started out, it was like a young designer. I had a game, and I didn't know anybody, and I was really confident, as only a young designer can be, and I just wanted to show everybody. And so I went there, and damn the cost. You know what? We didn't even get a hotel room. I remember this. I went with some friends of mine. We went to Gen Con. We didn't get a hotel room, and we slept on Friday night, and we slept briefly on Saturday, and that was it. And we just went there to show the game to as many people as possible. And that I consider to be almost the linchpin of my career nowadays. Like, just I met so many people, and got so much amazing feedback that and I learned more in that weekend than I did from years of studying and playing games and stuff like that, just exposing my game to the public. That was amazing. Then I went to go pitch games at conventions for several years after that, to go pitch to publishers, and that's always the best way to, in my opinion, to do it, because you're live, you're face to face, and most publishers, especially nowadays, are really, really hungry for new games. Now, when I'm like mostly on fire at conventions, it's just 100% just to support games I've already got out. So it's to go play the game with fans, sign the games for fans, and meet friends for like the 2 or 3 seconds we see each other in the hall.
Those 2 or 3 seconds, though, they're beautiful and they're precious.
Not JR, though. If you see him, I just run because, you know.
He's just more on fire when he sees JR.
That's right.
Right. Well, JR's the one who did it.
We've had some beautiful moments in the streets in Essen, bro. I'm just saying. Question for Ben. Ben, you've got Sagrada on Kickstarter right now through Floodgate Games, your publishing company. And this one's from me, and I've also had other people ask me before, how important is it to attend conventions while you have the Kickstarter active?
I will find out this weekend. It's actually the first time I'll have done that. Sure. We're going to Grand Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan this weekend, and I've never actually done both at the same time, so we'll see how crazy that do you have
any predictions? Like, are you approaching the convention differently because you have a game on Kickstarter than you normally would?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be focusing on that quite a bit, a little bit on the previous release we had earlier this year that's yet to be at retail. It's an expansion to Epic Resort, Villain's Vacation. So we'll have some of that, showing that off, but mostly focusing on Sagrada.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think it'll be good, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll have to bring a lot less stock.
Yeah.
Should be nice.
Are you going to run the iPads out and have people be able to log into Kickstarter and back the campaign right there at your booth?
Man, that is a good idea.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, goodbye. My time's done. Sen, you're up. Sen, you're muted. Sen, you're still muted. Tiffany, you're up while Sen figures out why he's muted.
Oh, man. All right. Well, so this is a question actually from the comments on YouTube and to Eric, and it's actually from an Eric. Eric Davila? I'm really bad at names.
There's only one Eric on YouTube, man. Sorry.
Yeah. He wants to know, how do we convince con skeptics and the game group who love games to leave their comfort zones and go to the conventions to come along?
Oh, man. So there are many times, especially the big cons like Gen Con and Origins, such that I wish that I was not going professionally, that I could just go for a gamer. It's like, it's paradise. You get access to so many convention exclusives, like huge tournaments, huge events that you could never get at home, that publishers themselves put together for specifically for those conventions. So, I mean, you know, assuming you're into games, but like Settlers of Catan World Championships, so you're into that. If you play any of the LCGs from Fantasy Flight, which They don't do worlds anymore, but they do huge events there. Unfortunately, I can't even keep track of what they are anymore, but they're giant tournaments with huge prize support, and you get access to the publishers. Like, you can get direct face-to-face contact with publishers that are there specifically to hear what you have to say about their games. So if you've ever, like, I mean, I've never met a gamer that has ever had an opinion on a game or how it should be made. If you are in such a boat, like, you got a direct mouthpiece to the publisher. I'd kill for that.
Have you killed for that, Eric?
Yeah. I just admitted to murder on air. Thanks.
Good. Perfect. I'm sure it'll be fine. Sin, you're up. Sin, you're still muted. No.
Dude.
All right. We have another question. We have a question from Tony Miller, who wants to know how important it is to have stock to sell at a convention. Is media buzz alone enough to justify the cost? For Ben, that one's for you.
Again, we'll see this weekend. No, traditionally, I try to have things to sell when I go to a convention, because a lot of people do go to conventions to have that opportunity to support the publishers directly, which is awesome. And usually to get promos and things like that, or often for me, it's just people who are discovering my company and my games for the first time. So being able to capture that moment right there is pretty crucial when you're in a position like I am with, just a few titles and kind of just starting to grow early on. So I really try to make sure I have things to get in people's hands, for sure.
Nice. Sen, are you unmuted?
No.
No, what in the world?
Dude.
He's holding up the number 1. I'm not sure what that means.
Unplug your mic?
Ben, I have a...
Is it talking? Am I talking?
Yeah!
Yeah!
How important is it to be heard at conventions, then?
It's actually kind of important. All right, Eric, this question to you. And I know because we were running in concentric circles around each other at last Gen Con, from the same booth to the same booth, but never at the same booth. So I saw you like once. But con survival tips as a designer, if you're going to be having meetings to pitch, if you're going to be demoing games that are releasing at the convention, what are your survival tips for designers out there?
Survival tips. So man, you and I should just run a show on this, just about that topic. But we'll start with the obvious ones. Do your homework. Do your homework. Do your homework. Never go to a meeting with a publisher without having done extensive research on their line. Know what kind of games they make. Know what kind of games they're looking for. The worst, in my opinion, the worst thing you could do at a convention is waste a publisher's time. They're really, really busy. They're meeting with tons and tons of people. You got like 5 minutes to just wow them. And like, we're all gamers. Like, even publishers are gamers. They want to be wowed. They're looking for really cool stuff, and they want that to be yours. So look for something that's a good fit no matter what. I would say, and this is probably contrary to what a number of other designers would say, don't come with a giant big box or a big binder full of like 10 to 20 games in it. Most publishers I know, that especially when I'm sitting with them, that come by and they see somebody with a binder of 10 or 20 games, they'll be like, uh-oh, how many of these are already with other companies, or how many of these are unsold? Most of them will be, I've actually gotten to a point where we just interrupt them and say, like, just show me your best one. What's your best idea? Come with maybe 3 or 4 maximum. But try, if you can, just to fit one game to one publisher. It's better to make one memorable pitch than 5 or 6 other ones, because then all they're going to otherwise they'll only remember, oh, this guy had tons and tons of ideas, but I don't remember anything about a specific one of that, any one of them. Definitely be polite, of course, but also practice active listening as much as possible. You're there to have them ask you questions. Don't steamroll over them. I've been in many pitch meetings where the designer will be like, all right, I'm gonna tell you about my game. It's so cool. It's so awesome. And they will like talk over you for like 5 minutes and leave you no room for any feedback. And the more a publisher asks you about a game and the more you're answering their questions, the more invested they're going to be in it, because they want to know more about your stuff. So don't worry about being too practiced. Don't worry about having everything laid out for you. Just pitch your thing, talk for a minute if you can, and let them ask questions.
Yeah, as a follow-up to that, Eric, we had a question from YouTube, and I'm going to twist it a little bit, from MadBona1. She says it seems extremely important to target specific publishers that match the game design being pitched. It's kind of a little bit what you're talking about, but I was wondering how important is that to try and match a game to a publisher, and what resources can a designer use other than just like Googling the publisher's website to try and figure out which publisher they should pitch their game to?
I mean, so you should ask Sen about this afterward too, because we might have different opinions on this. I do think it is today. It's much more important than it was before to match a game to a publisher, but it's not necessarily. So this is more art than science, and there's a really the best pitches are going to walk a tightrope. You want to look at their catalog, and that is the best resource, right? Play the games that publisher makes, and if they're even if they're a diverse, if they have a diverse catalog, they probably have a style that is some kind of identifiable style between them. So you want to give them something that does not compete with anything that's in their catalog, but rather complements it, and that's a really difficult distinction to make. And I wish I could give you more advice on that, except just to kind of hone your instinct for it. I mean. The way I do it is I visualize, especially when I'm doing a game, I visualize a product really, really early on. Like I got thousands of game ideas, like Sen and JR, like sitting around all over the place. The ones I really get excited about are the ones that I can actually see on my shelf in my collection. What does the box look like? What do the components look like? What would it look like if it was made by this publisher? And if it's really easy for me to visualize what that game would look like, it would probably be easy for them to visualize as well. None of that has much to do with the game design itself, right? With that, you mostly have to use your instinct. For the most part, I would just say, just rather than advise you to find something that exactly fits your catalog, just don't worry, trying to avoid pitching something that is completely out of their wheelhouse. You're not going to go to GMT, a Wargame 500 company, and pitch them the next Carcassonne, right? They're clearly not into that. They've never published it. Many publishers do like to be challenged, but you can usually find that out at the meeting after you've already pitched them something. That's when you'll find the most valuable information. You don't have to worry about if they didn't like your first pitch. A conversation afterward, like the feedback you get from them will teach you more about what they're looking for.
Great stuff. JR, you're up.
Sweet question for Ben. Having received pitches at conventions, do you prefer somebody hand you a sell sheet and then let you ask questions after like a brief elevator pitch? Or would you rather see a game on the table, a physical thing in front of you?
For me, I like to do the sell sheet exchange before the convention.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully someone's reached out and said, hey, here's my idea. What do you think? And that's even backing up further to what Eric was saying is, first make sure it's a fit, or at least you can visualize where it fits in the product line as a designer. And then once things kind of start to click there, I like sitting down and actually playing the game with the designer so I can ask questions. And mostly I want to gauge how receptive that person is to feedback and to shifting and changing things as needed. That for me is crucial for working together. Sagrada being the second project I've worked on to this point with a designer who's not me, it's really important for me to be able to be working with someone who I enjoy working with and who will push back on my ideas in healthy ways and such too, so we can both work our way toward the game that everyone wants it to be.
Nice. Good. Eric, we've got some more questions from the crowd. The internet is asking you, Eric, what are your top 3 conventions to attend as a designer? What are your thoughts?
My top 3. This is in public. Tell the world which conventions you like better than others. So it's actually, this one's easy for me. It's BGGCon is my favorite. Mm-hmm. That's in Dallas Fort Worth, DFW Airport. In fact, JR can talk all about that. He lives there, so he.
I will.
he knows everything about Dallas. Dice Tower Con is actually my second favorite con now. That shot through the ranks real quick. And the third one for me has recently just changed. And I don't know how applicable this is going to be to everybody else, but that is Jecan in France. It is it's a big,
it's the one in February, right?
it's the one in February, yeah. So this is me personally. So I don't know how much this is relevant to everybody else. Like, you really only go if you have already a bit of a relationship with French publishers.
Mm-hmm.
Not counting that, I would actually recommend Origins here in Columbus, Ohio, as a designer. So Origins and Gen Con kind of share a lot of the same publishers. They share a lot of the same players. But Origins is a slightly more relaxed show, and you probably get more quality time with publishers that aren't like in frenzy at the biggest convention of the year trying to sell stuff. Funnily enough, ironically, I don't actually go to Origins. It's only because I don't have the time and I have to go to Gen Con. If I was starting out today and I was giving myself advice, I would say go to Origins instead of Gen Con if you could have to choose between the two. Dice Tower Con is 3,500 people next year, I believe. It's in Orlando. It has lots and lots of tastemaker gamers, expert gamers with like strong opinions and very influential in the community, and it has a really diverse crowd. Like, it's families, kids, husbands, wives, lots of diverse backgrounds. So it feels like a mainstream con, but it's a small hotel convention. And of course, there's a pool and you can go swimming afterward.
That's good. Oh, can I ask you a quick question about PAX Dev? Eric, you've been to PAX Dev a few times,
Yeah,
right?
I just got back from that, actually.
Yeah. Is that worth going to? Because that's the one that cuts really close to start time for class for me, and it's the one I've always wanted to go to, but it's like, I really can't afford to go the week before school starts. But
yeah, that's an interesting one. So that is essentially that's a new version of GDC, Game Developers Conference, and
right.
But it's a black box convention. So to a degree, it is almost like a TED style presentation that is private and anybody can talk openly. It's a great show. I don't know how for you, I'm not sure how much you're going to learn at that show, but it's a great networking show if you could manage to get yourself a talk on that. So like, you have to submit talks for that to get accepted. And like, I've submitted, I don't know, 7 or 8 talks, and all but one got rejected. There's so many. But anyway, yeah, it's definitely worth it, but it's really, really expensive. I think it's like $400 for a badge.
Yeah, that's academics. That's nothing. We're like $4,000 a ticket, right? So.
Oh, that's a true fact. I mean, if you want to go to learn, yeah, absolutely. But but it's not necessarily 101. So if you know nothing about the industry and you know nothing about design, I probably wouldn't start at PAX Dev. If you've got a bit of a background and you've got the very basics covered, then it's a really good intermediate level course.
Cool.
You didn't mention Metatopia or Unpub, two East Coast conventions. Yeah, Metatopia is my favorite convention. Sorry to other friends who host conventions, but Metatopia is a design convention hosted by the Double Exposure team in Morristown, New Jersey, every November. It's the first weekend in November this year. It is the best experience I've had 3 years in a row now. This will be the 4th year in a row, I assume, with a fantastic, fantastic group of game designers. It's a convention that does game design for LARPs, RPGs, other storytelling games, and board games. So there's a lot of different kinds of designers there, all sort of working together, and it's only like 350 people. So it's really intimate, and the hotel setup is very nice. So everyone sort of just mills around and interacts with each other, plays each other's games. It's really well run, and I've made some of my best friends there. And I've both designed, co-designed, and sold games there to publishers. So it's a wonderful chance to meet people. And then of course Unpub, which I think everyone here has been to Unpub, is fantastic. It's an absolutely fantastic convention series in Baltimore where you show up and you just rent a table and run your games and get feedback, which is the best because getting feedback from more or less objective playtesters who don't know who you are is really useful. And then obviously there's a lot of chances to meet publishers too. So.
Sorry, just to back up, JR, if you don't have a game that's ready for publishers yet, I would actually put Unpub #1 above any of the 3 that I mentioned.
Sure.
The 3 I mentioned are for if you've got games that are already ready to go and you're ready to pitch. I also like. I can't say enough good things about Unpub. It's a ridiculously amazing show.
Yeah, and if you aren't able to get to Baltimore, there are Unpub minis quite frequently on the West Coast. We had one here in Portland last weekend. There's ones in Seattle quite occasionally. I know California has a few. California has a different type of unpublished prototype convention. It's called Protospiel. And sometimes they do events that are Protospiel / Unpub, and sometimes it's just Protospiel events. So if you are on the West Coast, see if there's a Protospill event happening here. They're very similar to Unpub.
We actually have them here in the Midwest now too. I'm to Minnesota in January.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because everybody wants to go to Minnesota in January.
Oh yeah.
Eric and I we might as well just stay at home, Eric. It's cold enough. It's cold enough.
I actually usually go to Minnesota in January because that's the most fruitful time for FFG's development cycle. It's so sad.
They're not outside.
I adore that you guys are like, oh, you can go swim at a convention. It's like, guys, you can go swimming I have a pool 10 feet from me, 365 days a year that is swimmable, right? Just come down here where it's very nice all year. Anyways, go ahead.
I have one thing to say, Jer. Shut up.
Yes? What? No. You can't make me. You're not my real dad.
We are your double dad. So Ben,
God.
tell us about, have you been to any of the Protospiels?
My company was in attendance. I wasn't able to make it personally last year, so some guys who helped me out went, and it was a really great experience for them, and the feedback was pretty great, so we're going back again this year, but unfortunately it landed right on top of PAX South. So.
Right, and I think there's a couple other things that go on in terms of game design, space things. JT from the Game Crafter does a convention in Madison. I can't remember the name of it, where it's just it's not really, I don't think it's a Protospiel thing, but it's might be linked to one. Anyways, there's a lot of cool stuff. So Unpubs are wonderful. They're great for getting the public to play your game. Protospiels are maybe like a step before an Unpub if you're just still working out the kinks in your design. It's a lot of designers at the Protospiels that will play each other's designs, and so it's kind of like the precursor to Unpub, and then from Unpub you'd go to, something to pitch, right? So I think it has a really nice flow, and Metatopia's in there as well, where you have very design-centric conventions, very pitch-centric conventions, and then, like Eric said, if you could ever get to one that he could just relax at, that would be nice too. Ben, can you tell me about your favorite conventions to go to as a publisher? Which ones are the best bang for the buck that you've found so far? Which ones actually, treat you guys well? What's good about the different conventions that you've been to as a publisher, Ben?
Oh man, it's really interesting the sort of relationship that you have with the folks who are putting on each of these conventions, because everybody runs it just a little bit differently. Pretty much every convention that we go to, everybody's really great. Gen Con, of course, is the big one. It's a lot of fun to be at, just the spectacle of everything and whatnot. It's a lot of work going there and requires quite a few people to help out to make it successful and whatnot. I can't remember who said it, but I'm going to echo BGG Con. I think it's a really fantastic convention. I like that they're really building a great community, and they're growing intentionally, and that's been really nice to see from the publisher side too. And talking with Jeff and others over there, like they really do care about making sure each of the publishers gets what they need to be successful at their convention.
JR, what's up?
Not much, man. What's up?
Well, you had a point that you mentioned in the chat, and I think Eric has a counter to your point. So mention your point, and then Eric can have his counterpoint. You guys can argue like father and son.
I was just saying that designer-publisher speed dating is pretty great, and I really have enjoyed getting to be a part of it at every different angle, seeing pitches, giving pitches, and recording pitches as a media member. And that is a fantastic thing to do once you have a game that is pitchable. Eric, do you disagree?
Can you explain what speed dating is, please, son?
I can, yeah, absolutely. In designer publisher speed dating, some number of designers, probably around 20, interact with some number of publishers, usually also about 20, where each designer takes a table, sits down, sets up their game, and then publishers kind of go roundabout in 5-minute intervals and get a pitch from each of those designers moving in a clockwise fashion around the table until the oldest player at the table is done with their turn, in which case everyone else gets a turn and then the game is over, and the designer with the highest score is the winner. Actually, you can give pitch sheets, you can give your 5-minute pitches. It's a lot like what you would do at a convention, only it happens more quickly. I guess it's also at a convention, but it gives you a chance to interact one-on-one with these designers, but then get a bunch of them all at the same time. And it's been a great resource that I've seen for at least getting feedback from publishers. And James Matthew, the guy that runs these things, has done a pretty good job of selecting designers and publishers that seem to be good fits for each other. So it's pretty cool.
Excellent. And what's your counter to this whole thing, Eric?
Well, so I have to admit, many designers who ask me about speed dating as a connection to getting published, I would actually advise against it. The main skill that I see, the main takeaway I see from speed dating is a way to practice your 5-minute pitch and to watch your pitch get eviscerated time after time after time, and as you watch people get bored of your of trying to condense 30 minutes of pitch time into 5 minutes. But more often than not, I haven't seen a lot of good fits come from speed dating that could not have come from regular pitch sessions, other sources. It gets you some exposure, sure, but it does feel a lot more like a lineup at American Idol. There's so little guarantee that you're going to make a good fit and make a good pitch, because 5 minutes is the tip of the iceberg, right? And I've at least talked to many people that were disappointed by the delta between their initial experience of the speed dating and the publishing and the development process that came afterward.
Do we need like a Tinder for game developers and publishers to?
I would rather have a grinder where like a publisher. Well, the publisher's nearby, like my phone vibrates. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Dude,
Swipe
all right,
left.
let's do that. 50-50.
50-50, me and you. JR, you're gonna get some inheritance out of this as double dads.
I'm so good. I'm so good with this.
So Ben, have you participated in the publisher speed dating?
I have, yeah. It's I kind of land somewhere right between JR and Eric on this one.
Not surprising.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of pitches that could use work, and it's really good. It's a really good opportunity for the designer themselves, but that kind of ends up being a grind for a publisher to go through a lot of that. Like, great, I'm glad that you're getting feedback and you're improving from this, but I'm there to find cool games. So
and you haven't yet found that cool one yet?
I do have one game that came out of speed dating that we're still in development on, that I signed. Yeah, more to come on that. But so to a degree, I would say I've had some success there, but on the whole, it's a lot of time and effort to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And you have to be on, and it's really intense, and it's a little exhausting as a publisher on that side, I think.
Yeah, I can see it, and it's funny because I've seen it from both sides as well. Well, I've never actually done it, but I've watched it. I've sat on the publisher side, and actually for JR at a point, and then I've actually just followed designers around as well doing media stuff. And it's interesting, like the caliber of designer that goes to the publisher speed dating seems to be more of the beginner ones who couldn't get a word in edgewise if they tried, unless it was through publisher speed dating. So maybe that's what it's good for. I don't know. It's
a pretty like rough crucible for new players, right? For new designers.
I think it's really for the people that don't. You guys are all pretty well connected at this point. Like, if you wanted to talk with XYZ publisher, everyone here, I think, is confident enough to walk up and be like, hey, I'm this person and I have a game, can I pitch it? Whereas I think a lot of people that have never designed something, and maybe it's their first convention even, this is I think speed dating is a great way for them to be exposed to publishers and at least meet them and realize, oh, they're people, like they're not big logos or something, So I think speed dating is super important for people that have had zero interaction with publishers at this point. Like, the most interaction they've ever had is just purchasing somebody's game, and they maybe don't have the confidence because they haven't hung out with people yet. So the one speed dating event I went as a media person and recorded, and a bunch of people that I was there and I was talking to, they had never been to anything before with any kind of publishers, and so for them they were very, very nervous because they were meeting these people for the first time, and it was their first exposure to publishers as people. So I think it's valuable for that.
Publishers are people too. That sounds like a shirt. We need to make a shirt.
Yeah. So there are people, and I'm not one of them, but there are people who believe that you need like permission to walk up and talk to somebody, right?
You are definitely not one of those people.
Correct.
You don't even believe in permission for hugs.
He is the biggest non-consensual hugger I think I've ever seen.
He's pretty much breaking some Geneva Conventions with his hugs.
I just do enjoy giving and receiving a hug, guys.
Maybe the reason people think you need permission is that.
I hope not. No, but like, so I came into this industry, I guess 4 years ago, and paid my way to conventions for a really long time. And what I did is I just walked up and I introduced myself to people and just got to know what they did. And I think if your perspective at a convention isn't, I want to go discover the world around me and see what's there. If your perspective is, I want to get my game made and not think about the grander area, the grander environment that you're in, then it's very difficult to go get a game made because you're not thinking about what other people need and what it is they want to create and how your game might or might not fit in with them. But also, like, if you're the kind of person who doesn't feel comfortable walking up to a stranger and introducing yourself, or walking up to somebody and initiating like a casual / business conversation maybe, then it can be really intimidating to go to a convention and try to find a pair, right? Like, and as it turns out, like, I did a poll with publishers. Ben, I think you responded to this one like last year, saying like, what are the biggest reasons why you wouldn't sign a game that you thought was good? And designer fit and the fit within the brand were the two things. But like, hidden inside that was this examination of like, a certain kind of person gets games published more often than other kinds of people, and it is those people who are willing to put themselves out there and go and have what at times can be difficult or embarrassing or vulnerable conversations with strangers over and over and over again. And not everyone is like emotionally equipped to do that or does it as well as other people do. And for those people, I think it's necessary to create specific, constrained social environments where they understand exactly what they're supposed to do and can interact within this system so that they know how to prepare for it, how to behave, what to expect afterwards when they're not so comfortable with like this like social emotional chaos that the rest of us are so happy to be inside. I don't know.
No, that was pretty deep. He
always ends his big, deep philosophical rants with, I don't know.
Because I'm
just saying, like, Eric, have you ever been scared to walk up and talk to a publisher? Can you remember that? Like,
oh God, yes.
Yeah, but it's been what, 20? How old are you? 70? It's been 50 years, right?
Sure, but 70 years ago there was a period where I was scared shitless to. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're in Canada. If you
wait a minute. We're at lunch. We're at lunchtime. We're not after dark anymore.
I was scared mooseless to approach any, because I mean, especially when I was 20, right? When I was 20, I was overconfident and hypersensitive at the same time, right? The best combination.
Yeah.
And so, like, I had ambitions of only working with the biggest, best publishers at the time, and like I saw their games. I'm like, I want a game on your shelf. And of course, those guys are super intimidating, especially when you see them at conventions where they have lineups of people outside their booths all the time, and everybody wants to talk to them. If you ever want a good sense of how to get an inferiority complex, try going to approach Wizards of the Coast at Gen Con. Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
But like somebody or Blizzard at E3 or something like that, and go and realize like, oh wow, do these guys actually want to, like, what on earth do I have to offer these guys? Talk to me. That actually dovetails into another point, which maybe you guys will ask me about later, but I don't want to hijack the conversation. I have some advice that has nothing to do with speed dating or publisher pitching of how to get yourself at a convention, how to get yourself published.
Cool. All right, well, let's chat with Ben for a second. Ben, what advice would you give to designers, like new designers, even mature and aged designers like Eric and myself?
Aged?
Aged. I said Asian for me and aged for Eric. I kind of combine them both. That's how we do it up in Canada. Ben, so advice for pitching to you particularly, or what have you heard? What has really actually worked with you, whether or not the game is good, for a pitch, like during speed dating, during whatever, at a convention. What do you like?
Yeah, we touched on a lot of that. Like I like when there's a consideration for where does this game fit within the product line, and how is this similar or not, or tangential to the things that you're doing. That's a really good consideration to make. Additionally, I think just something that's fun and showing an enthusiasm for your own idea, and not in this sort of like fakey pitchman way, which can happen from time to time, but really a genuine like passion for your idea is really great to see. That while also being grounded and understanding what is actually novel and what is something that already exists. I've seen some ideas that people think are, lo and behold, this is something that's been around for a while, or there's not really anything innovative in the game. So, of course, do your homework in that respect. So hopefully that's some advice for the aged Asians among us.
Thanks. Tiff, you're up.
Kind of a follow-up on that, and I kind of am curious to hear from both Ben and Eric, because you mentioned do your homework and don't come into a meeting thinking that you are the universe's gift to gaming, right? And you've designed the most innovative thing ever. But I mean, JR aside, but how do you prep? Because not everybody has played everything in the world. Like I once was like, I thought I had a really cool idea, and I mentioned it to some people, and they're like, oh, it's like this game. I was like, oh.
Tiffany, I think you've answered your own question there. Like you took your game idea and you shopped it around to your gaming groups and whatnot, and sort of let it go through that first pass of the people who are close to you, because they're going to be gentle, and if they're harsh when they would normally be gentle, like that's a huge red flag that you are going down a path that has already been traveled, so to speak. Because honestly, I don't know if a lot of publishers are going to be so gentle. So start with your local group, and that's why we game with people. It's because they've had experiences we don't, or we haven't had in the past.
That's a huge one. And a follow-up to my follow-up. So talking about your game ideas, or just showing your prototypes, and I've talked to a few people that are designers that are afraid to do that because they're afraid of taking their games to like unpubs or protospiels, or even just groups outside their normal game group, because they're afraid that their design is going to be stolen. Like somebody's going to take it, and if they take it to a convention and they're playing at one of these events, like somebody's going to just take it out from under them or anything like that. Do you have any advice for people that are concerned about that, or?
There's no black market for ideas that I'm aware of. So
Control-C, Control-V. This is one of the #1 questions I'm asked by the newest designers out there, right? And yeah. I'll bet you, in fact, I mean, Sen, I'm sure you've got a Control-C, Control-V answer for this too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, no idea in and of itself is without executions worth anything. Even if it's a really good one, there are lots of good ideas, especially in the market today. B, there's a good to fair chance that any game that you're working on right now is being worked on A1 by another designer somewhere in the field, A2 by another publisher that's currently in the field. Sen's like lip syncing when I'm that's awesome. And C, it doesn't matter if there are multiple ideas that are the same. Like, it's a great example. I actually at PAX this weekend, I pitched a concept to 3 different designers as a co-design thing. I was like, I have this thing that I want to do. I have this game idea that I want to do, and I talked to 3 different designers about it, and we came up with 3 completely different games in all 3 cases from the exact same pitch. None of them had anything to do with the pitch. So And now what I do is I just tell other people, it's like, hey, I got this cool idea, I haven't executed on it. If you come up with something for it, great, I'll play it. That's you can't monetize that.
I'd like to play a little more off of what you were saying about an idea being worth nothing without execution. I think often people take that concept and think, oh, if I just sort of apply pressure to this idea, it will be successful, and that's the only gap. But in reality, not every idea can be executed successfully necessarily. I think that sort of really tall wall of getting something done is often people see that and they think, well, someone else could climb that wall, and maybe it's not necessarily even true, but part of the idea is finding a way to have that execution be completed. And there's a ton of challenge behind that. So it's not just grab an idea and apply pressure necessarily. There's so much creativity that goes behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot of grit, a lot of resiliency, a lot of failure that happens in game design, and that's where we make our money. Honestly, it's not in that's the execution that Eric's talking about is the going through the rigmarole of failing a whole lot. And this goes to a question that Nettage Play is asking. So I'm going to ask Eric and Ben this. What kind of advice do you have for playtesters in terms of, it might be related to conventions, but it doesn't have to be, just in terms of the design and what we're talking about now and executing ideas, a playtester's role in what you do? What is it? What advice do you have for them?
So your advice for playtesters in terms of what to do at conventions? Or?
Well, no, the question kind of came a little bit out of left field, so I'm going to left field it for them. I'm going to center it a little bit. So about in your design process, how do playtesters factor in right now, specifically with what we're talking about in terms of stealing ideas and whatnot? Do you expose? Do you let them have print and play copies? What do you do, Eric, to get your game made? Because we need playtesters, right?
Oh, sure. I mean, playtesting is, I don't know, 70% of the process for me. So like my playtest nights are all of my weekly milestones. They're every milestone that I have actually, except for conventions. So like for example, today I have a playtest tonight, and the rest of my day is organized around getting my game ready for that. So playtesters, I mean, advice for playtesters. If you guys are, if you're playtesting for a designer, especially somebody like Senator and myself who have been doing this for a while, just come and play, right? Just come and play and be present. And I'm going to rip off JR here because he wrote an idea down. Be honest, be kind. I actually don't even care about the kind part. Like if you're annoying and whiny and stuff like that, I don't care. Like honesty is much, much better for me. And don't, there's a type of playtester that I do have difficulty with, that's somebody who feels like they're there as a part of a job interview, and they are more concerned with trying to impress the designer with the acuity of their feedback rather than just playing the game and being honest. Don't worry about it. You're not on trial. You're not being judged. The only thing that's being judged at the table is the game. It's 90% of the feedback, the post-mortem feedback I get at a playtest is just like, it's just us talking, but it's just a deconstruction of what was happening there at the table. I take most of my takeaways are watching players play at the table, and I take most of my notes then. We talk afterward, and then in a lot of cases, the notes I take are just noting the delta between what they're saying at the end of the game and what actually happened during the game, because that happens a lot, especially with smart playtesters. I'm sorry, I lost track. We have, as far as stealing ideas, I don't care. Like I've thrown away so many games at this point that have been taken to the playtest table. Sometimes I'll even tell a playtester, like, hey, if you're an aspiring designer, I haven't been able to do anything with this game. You want to take it? Go for it. I don't care. If you can make it work, I'll happily play it. I just maybe like an inspired by credit or something. all of my playtesters are under NDA with my studio, which is a very general NDA. You're not allowed to talk any specifics about the game that I'm publishing until the publisher has released marketing info for it. Other than that, everything is fair game, in my opinion.
Yeah. JR, did you have a follow-up question?
I have so much to say about all of that, but I'm a host and not a guest. And
Yeah, we've
what
got
is this?
a couple of minutes. Yeah, we'll talk after in the after show.
Yeah, save it for after show.
Can you do you want to pose a question for Ben to finish it off?
I do want to ask Ben a question. Ben, I actually got the playtesting system that I use at Artana from a conversation that you and I had at PAX South earlier this year, a long years ago, it feels like. Do you find, because you use Reddit and Google and a lot of electronic things rather than necessarily playtesting in person to do blind testing, do you find that your feelings about it mirror what Eric was saying, or do you feel differently?
Oh, I actually do both. So that whole playtesting system setup is, I think, really great for sort of testing balance and aggregates and just sort of getting this shotgun feedback. And I think most importantly, you're really seeing, like, can people figure this game out blindly from just getting the rules, and you're not even able to really have that conversation. So that's really useful in that respect. But man, I love seeing things get ripped apart in person too, and just observing the play. And there's a moment for me that tends to happen with even published games that I like to observe is, like, often people go from playing the game to just being in the game, and they go from talking about the game and its components and its ideas to their strategy and start to take on the persona of the character they're playing, for example. And being able to observe that moment, I think, is crucial during the playtest process, because that to me is when you know you're onto something, and the mechanisms itself are sort of melting away, and the spirit of the game is what's coming out quite a bit. So.
Awesome.
We could do a whole show about this, we could do a semester of this.
There needs to be a board game college, I feel. Like, we could just do an online school of, like, design and playtesting and just everything. I think it could be a 4-year program.
Playtest the universe and everything.
Well, if people will pay $400 for 2 days of pack stuff, right? If we just extrapolate that to the the full 200 day school year, then we've got it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up. We're over the hour. If you hear Xena crying in the background, I'm sorry. Steve left, so she's sad. But thank you, Ben and Eric, for being on today's episode about the pros of cons. I was wondering if we can follow it up with one last question. Try to keep it brief. But one piece of advice that you would give people that are attending a convention as a designer. Just one piece of advice. And I know we've given lots of advice. Just try and pick, like, what you feel is the most important, starting with Eric.
I defer to starting to Ben.
Play your game with as many people as you can. You're in a unique position where you're around a ton of people you don't normally get to see. So you're going to get new voices and new opinions, and seize that opportunity as a designer. Wow, I can't imagine much better than being able to just get a diversity of opinions. So take advantage of that.
Yeah, and if you're not sure about what opportunities the convention has, ask other designers, because I know that Gen Con has the Double Exposure Playtest Hall, Origins has the Blue Noodle event, then there's Protospiels and Unpubs, and sometimes there's often, like, official Protospiels and Unpubs inside of other conventions. So just always ask other designers that have been before if you're looking for a specific, more organized event. You can also just be like, I'm going to be at this table, come play. So that's an option too. All right, Eric, you got it?
All right, yeah, sure. With everything we talked about, I would say the overarching thing here is be patient, and don't fall for the trap of trying to amortize the cost of the convention among future earnings or whatever that may be. Every single convention is one tiny little piece of the puzzle of your game design career. No matter whether you got a bite, whether you got anything from publishers, you got something valuable out of that, absolutely, and it's feedback. So chances are the next great idea that you come up with is directly or indirectly tied to what you experienced at that convention, and that's it.
And there's the music to say that's all the time you get. Thank you.
It's like being dragged off of the Oscars, right? That's very
good. Thank you again, Ben and Eric, for being on today's episode 81 of Meeple Syrup. Thank you so much, JR, for coming and being special co-host. Next week, episode 82, we'll have Daryl back from his vacation. I'm sure he's going to tell us all about baseball that he's seeing right now. And we're also going to be talking with Isaac, I can't say your last name, Shalev, and Matt Loomis, and we're going to be talking about co-designing, which actually is something I'm very interested in because I am currently co-designing a game. So tune in next week at noon Eastern Time, 9 Pacific West Coast time. Maybe I'll bring pancakes on air next time. I don't know. We'll see. But if you want to stick around, we're going to be doing an after show with just the hosts. So Sin and JR and I are going to be talking. We're going to kick Eric and Ben out, and we're going to talk about them behind their backs while you watch.
Yeah.
Woo! But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.